Now, these were the two main approaches which have been operating. Now, this is actually the approach which I propose in the context of special economic zone. Now, what is my argument here is? My argument is that basically special economic zones need to be viewed as government promoted outward oriented industrial clusters. That is, I propose to bring special economic zones within the fold of industrial clustering approach, which is promoted by who has promoted this approach of industrial cluster? Who has promoted industrial cluster? Porter. Porter has promoted this whole approach of industrial clustering. He has been doing this. He is very famous about the word for the book called. Porter has written a book called Competitiveness of Nations, where we have talked about industrial clusters. The way forward for industrial development is to create clusters, because clusters create agglomeration economies which reduce the cost of production and which facilitate spillover. These may be knowledge spillover, these may be technology spillover, these may be skill spillover. Okay, so now this concept is not new. Actually Porter is promoting something. He started promoting something in the latter half of the 20th century, which was already promoted by someone called Marshall. It was in 1920 that Marshall introduced the concept of agglomeration economy. Okay. Now, his clusters were different from Porter's cluster, because Marshall basically talked about natural clusters, but Porter talked about government developed industrial clusters also.
Strategically speaking.
Yes. He talked about competitive advantages. He talked about competitiveness, whereas Marshall talked about comparative advantages. Okay, that is the difference. But actually, the meaning is the same. Both of them said that agglomerations can lead to increased competitiveness. Okay, and this actually because of lower cost. And this actually, and when you say competitiveness, the moment you talk about competitiveness, it means your exporting. It means your international competitiveness. You cannot have domestic competitiveness and not international competitiveness. So basically the argument here is that Porter and Marshall is talking about comparative advantage. And comparative advantage is related with trade, isn't it? How?
It's all about trading rights.
Where you have comparative advantage. Okay, so both of them basically are talking about export orientedness of clusters. And yet, when we talk about SEZs, we do not look upon them as clusters. We look upon them as enclaves. We say that these are trade enclaves. Okay, and that is what is. And then when we say enclave, the moment we say that they are trade enclaves, they become second-class sectors. Okay, whereas industrial cluster is a very important part of the whole industrial strategy. So here the argument is that when you are talking about cluster, you are talking about competitiveness. Then why are you not talking about cluster effect when you talk about special economic zone? So these have to be brought into this broad framework of industrial clustering. And the moment you say that they are clusters, you associate them with all the benefits that are associated with industrial clusters. That is all sorts of localization economy, all sorts of agglomeration economy. That is, you pool your resources together, that gives you scale advantage, that gives you reduced cost, that actually invites people, the support industries, okay, complementary industries in the region that reduces your cost, okay, and then there are spillover effects because people are working in a factory, they get equipped with the knowledge, and then when they interact with others in that cluster, they actually disseminate that knowledge in the public. Okay, so there is a spillover effect that takes place. When they change their job, when they move from one job to another, there is spillover. Okay, when they work on new technology and they interact with the others, there is technology spillover. Okay, so these people, these clusters, which are of highly competitive industries, these can actually generate these agglomeration economies, which can improve the competitiveness further. I also talked about this circular and cumulative processes of growth in the context of agglomeration economies. In fact, this concept was coined by Mirdal, again a very famous economist. He says that once there is a cluster formation, this cluster expands over time. And why it expands over time? Because the dynamics of the cluster reinforce them. That is, some firms come and they set up their business. They create demand for various goods. They create demand for labor. So labor is attracted to that region. When labor comes to that region, they also demand certain products. Now, with increasing demand for all these products by both industry and by labor, there is increasing number of newer industries which come and set up their shops around that region. Okay. Now, once this happens, once this hole is generated, this hole starts expanding because newer firms are also attracted to this hole. Okay, and then when they set up, they come, they demand further services. This leads to the expansion in the support services as well. Okay, so this whole is reinforced. This is known as circular and cumulative process of growth. Okay, so what happens is that what my argument is here, that if you look upon special economic zones as clusters and you develop them as clusters, they can become growth poles. Growth poles, Hirschman's concept of industrial growth. So these can serve as growth poles, and then you don't need to consciously link them with the rest of the economy. They are developed as a part of the economy. So what does that mean? That you start developing them in those regions which already have that kind of competitive strength. So you reap those regional strengths through activity. And then, because you are reaping those regional strengths, you start growing because the conditions are favorable for your growth. And when you start growing, obviously, you start expanding. And this whole process of circular and cumulative processes of growth starts. So don't set up them in the stored areas, in isolated areas as small enclaves. Set up them there where there are regional strengths so that they can expand. They are not supposed to generate strength. They are supposed to reap the strength. That is what is important when you design your special economic zone. That is what the argument is about. Okay, many people say that our special economic zones are not well located because they are not located near the port. This is because of our mentality of thinking special economic zones in the framework of neoclassical theory. We are not thinking in terms of the cluster approach. So you have to generate. So there are two things. One, you set up special economic zones to reach the regional benefits of regional economy. One. If suppose you are not doing that, or if suppose you have small special economic zones as India, then create clusters of special economic zones in a place so that they generate the regional capability and capacity. and they themselves become clusters. They are self-independent. Okay, so this way you can generate the benefit, but not by setting up one special economic zone. You have to create a cluster of special economic zones to generate that kind of economy. The whole objective is that you do something so that certain threshold level of economic activity is generated. Okay, and then this will start expanding. Okay, and this is the key to the development of special economy. Now, if you look at them this way, then only they can be successful. Now, here actually I have looked at Chinese approach. Now, this is exactly what China has done. Now, people say that China set up 6 special economic zones. Many of you must have heard about it, and these are very large special economic zones. One important feature of these special economic zones is that they are not enclosed. There is no boundary. They are like cities. Everything is going as normal. It's a city, full city, where there are several industrial units. There are people living there in houses, just as normal, and there are all other facilities of schools and, shopping malls, and everything is there. All social infrastructure is there. So one city is declared as special economic zone. This city administratively is self-sufficient. Administratively, you don't have to go to the central government all the time. Okay. So these are open zones. They are developed as large clusters. These are the initial zones which were set up starting from 1979. But then this was not the end. 6 zones were set up which were very large. But then they started becoming successful. And then the Chinese government thought, within 5 years, they thought that we should have some more zones to complement these zones. And what they did was, they started setting up a variety of zones. Now this is to tell that in China also there was a lot of controversy when they were set up. There again, people started saying that these are foreign territories. People started saying that the country is sold out to foreigners. Okay, so the same things which are being said now in India about special economic zone, they were being said there also, despite the fact that this is a highly regulated and politically oppressed economy. But yet, media and academicians, they all criticized the selling of the nation through special economy. They were known as real estate propositions, just like in India we call them. Okay. There was no FDI. There was rampant smuggling. Okay. They failed to pick up. But then the government was very much committed. It looked at the problems that were coming up and started addressing them one by one. They started coming out in 1979. By 1984, Shenzhen started functioning very well. Okay. Now, in 1984, they decided to set up other zones to complement the existing zones. And then came a variety of zones. There is no one zone. There are not 6 zones in China. Okay. There are several zones in China. And under different nomenclatures. Some are called Economic and Technological Development Zones. Some are National High-Tech Industrial Development Zones, National Border Economic Zones, which Dr. Srinivasa was talking about. Then there are export processing zones within these zones. So export processing zones are set up within them. And then within these zones there are chemical zones, there are these iron and steel zones. So what they have done, they actually expanded their zone sector under different names. They were just small variations in their nature, but incentives were equal for all types of special economic zones. Now this country actually led to horizontal expansion because different types of zones were set up, and vertical expansion because many of these zones were set up within zones. Okay. Third characteristic was that many of these special economic zones, they were set up close to each other. Okay. Now immediately these are nothing but smaller special economic zones. Now they were these HIIs, they were set up